Hello everybody. So, I have been looking into Julie Rowe because I am ultra suspicious of her, especially since the strange voicemail that left undone brought to my attention, and I found it and recorded it. Well, okay, so upon research, this is something from, like, I think a year ago. No, well, this is in 2018 or 2017. I'm not sure. Okay, but these are from people who have been personally affected by her and how she impacted their lives. Okay, so I was an RS president in our ward when a couple were going through some issues over Julie. Julie was telling this man that he had been Moroni in a different estate, and that he was to be a very integral part of the tribulations. She and others in her circles tried diligently to make this man remember where to find the plates. His wife was not having any of this, and Julie told him that his wife was of the dark and would be taken out by God if she didn't get on board. Julie convinced this man to buy $75,000 worth of ammo and guns, as he would be the captain of the army to fight incoming troops. Subsequently, he lost his business and almost his marriage. So when people say no harm is done, they are wrong. The next person says, asking what kind of harm Julie Rowe has caused is like asking what kind of harm did Jim Jones, Marshall Applewhite, and Bonnie Lou Nettles cause. Their followers had their agency to choose to follow them. It is religious freedom. I am not here to tear down someone. My purpose in writing this post is to make people aware of the risk associated with following an on-the-fringe, self-declared prophet. My wife is a die-hard Julie Rowe follower. Here is a list of influence Julie Rowe has had on my family. She told my wife that it was okay to both quit our jobs and liquidate our retirement because the end of the world was going to happen within 9 months. This was 5 years ago. I didn't agree with my wife on this request, so my wife threatened to divorce me. In an effort to save my marriage, I liquidated my 401k a few years ago. Right before the strongest stock market surge we've seen in decades, I've run retirement simulation calculations and figure I've lost, conservatively speaking, $500,000 over the life of my retirement fund. Not to mention being forced to move and leave my fantastic job so that we could be closer to Tent City. 5 years later, I've had a couple of complicated career pivots and a lower salary and less fulfillment, and have been unemployed twice, which never helps a marriage. Number 2. Julie Rowe has predicted a couple of earthquakes. My wife was so convinced that she texted every close friend and relative that the big one was close to happening. She took all of our pictures off the walls, tied our cupboards closed, and put all of the vases and fragile knickknacks on the floor. Put shoes and a flashlight next to each of my children's bed and coached them what to do when the big earthquake hits. You can imagine the anxiety and fear this caused in dozens of people's lives. Who knows the kind of irreversible damage it caused my kids. Number 3. Julie Rowe told my wife they were sisters in another estate and that they were murdered together. That's why they are kindred spirits. Julie Rowe has told my wife that she was Joan of Arc, among other famous women in her other lives in the past. This has wreaked havoc in my family because my wife believes she was family with Julie Rowe, so she places her in an equal priority as my kids and I. From these multiple estate talks, my wife has elevated Julie Rowe to Wonder Woman status. She believes she is a warrior goddess. Let's not forget that Julie Rowe removed her infamous podcast where she stated she was married to Eric Smith in a previous estate. How screwed up is this? Can you imagine if I told my wife that a woman I travel with all over the country was my wife in a previous life? You can hear the sexual tension that they experience. It's disgusting. Number 4. Julie Rowe claims to have visions, dreams, and experiences meeting immortal beings. For example, she claimed to meet Cain at the Salt Lake City airport and that Cain tried to poison her. Despite trying to kill Julie Rowe, Cain had enough gentlemanly manners to wait outside of the woman's restroom while Julie Rowe could compose herself. Shortly after this podcast aired, I was with my family at the movie theater. We were sitting near the front of the theater. An average-age male sat in front of us. I went to get popcorn and my wife followed me out and said, "The man sitting in front of her is pure evil, and he is from a different dimension, and he came to torment or even hurt her." She begged me to take my family and sit in the back of the theater. I wasn't about to move all of my kids and all of their stuff in the middle of a movie, so I stayed behind the man who was enjoying his Coke. Perhaps I would feel, he seemed to be thirsty, but perhaps I'd feel the same way if I traveled from a different dimension. My wife now has the paranoia that everyone is out to torment her. She hears things, sees things, and has dreams and visions, just like her previous estate sister, Julie Rowe. You're probably asking why my wife would believe any of this is happening. It is because she has the unwavering trust in Julie Rowe. When she tells Julie Rowe all about these experiences, Julie Rowe confirms that they are real and true. And when she talks to Julie Rowe, it's like adding fuel to the fire. Julie Rowe has done energy healing seminars across the country. Well, my wife has been to 2 of them. My brother died unexpectedly, and the day we were supposed to... The day we found out and we were in mourning, when we all needed to support each other, my wife decided to leave our family and drive 4 hours to go to Julie Rowe's energy class, because she didn't want to offend Julie Rowe by missing it. I could hardly function and my kids were distraught, but Mom decided she needed to go get her Julie Rowe fix. I heard about the Julie Rowe seminar. Everyone has to turn their phones in because dark spirits travel through portals through electronic devices, which is more convincing than saying we don't want anyone to record the session. At the beginning of the session, everyone in the class raises their arm to the square and they all repeat a chant. My wife has spent a lot of money on these sessions and now wants to become an energy healer. She has done energy healing on several friends and family members. She worked on my brother's wife once for about an hour. That session was so traumatizing for my brother's wife, she ended up leaving the church, which has been very difficult on my brother and his little family. My wife also worked on my niece, and it took months for my sister and her husband to deprogram the damage caused during that session. I haven't seen any good come from any of this. It just takes away my wife's time from our family, and it is quite demanding on me to work 55 hours a week and then complete most of the housework, yard work, meals, homework, putting kids to bed so my wife can devote all of her time to healing the afflicted. The energy work gives her a high for a day or two. But then it makes her crash really hard. She'll stay in bed for several hours, usually on her phone, listening to podcasts or reading blogs to get that high again. This is extremely addicting. I've never seen anything like it. It's as addicting as heroin. Because Julie Rowe has validated and encouraged my wife in all of her dreams, my wife can't sleep enough, because she believes that is how God communicates to her. She is constantly trying to go to sleep. Some days she sleeps 10 to 12 hours. I don't think I've ever seen my wife help my kids with their homework. My kids are late to school almost every day because she doesn't want to wake up and take them. I've started taking them to school, which makes me late for work. I'd wake up earlier, but I'm up late helping do homework, doing dishes, doing laundry, cleaning the house. Julie Rowe has told my wife that God called her a prophet with a small p, not the capital P. Prophet, but the smaller p. I don't even know what that means, but she obviously wants to elevate herself to attract as many followers as possible. My wife believes anything that comes out of her mouth to be prophetic, which is dangerous. I have a small fear that my wife will do anything Julie Rowe requests. I've heard of mentally ill mothers harming themselves or their children. If Julie Rowe asked my wife to make the ultimate sacrifice, I can't say for sure that she wouldn't do something drastic. I try not to even think about it, but it truly gives me pause. Julie Rowe encouraged my wife to buy a tent. We ended up spending $2,000 on a canvas tent. This was while I was unemployed. My wife also spent thousands of dollars on food storage and every type of camping equipment. I don't mind being prepared, but now my wife wants to sell our house to use the equity to purchase more supplies and food. I told her I'm not going to sell my house, so now she is threatening me with divorce. She believes if she divorces me, we will split the equity in half, and then she will have plenty of money to pay off her debt and buy more food and supplies. Julie Rowe told her that she cannot enter the tent city if she has any debt. My wife has so much anxiety over her debt that it is crippling. She is working her guts out and hardly ever spends any time with our kids because she is so consumed with getting out of debt. We have given a lot of money to Julie Rowe's foundation through donations and fees for energy healing, yet Julie Rowe told her that she could, isn't even a licensed practitioner, and she lives in a home on a property that was all donated to her. How is any of this legal? Is it sounding more and more like a satanic cult leader, isn't it? This is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more I could say. My biggest word of advice for anyone that is curious about Julie Rowe is a dangerous cult leader that has developed a counterfeit gospel that is a plague spreading through many, many families. I'm not saying this because I have the antidote. I'm saying this because I've seen firsthand the damage it has caused me and my entire family. I don't know where else to turn. Okay, sound familiar? Okay. So, what she does with these people is, you know, she does the hypnotic thing, and she shares with them or implements the ideas to them that in some way they were important in her life. With the women, she uses the relative thing, which puts her, you know, makes you gain an emotional connection to her. And sorry, my lips are so chapped today. But it makes them gain an emotional connection to her and put them on the same level as they would their families. Here's the thing. What she does is makes these people dissociate from their real lives. Your life doesn't become as important anymore if this life is, okay, so basically, she makes it to where whatever's going on in this life isn't as important. You dissociate your feelings from it, and that's why she was able to leave her husband instead of grieving with her husband and being there for her husband and going to Julie Rowe's energy session, is because Julie Rowe has made her basically detach herself from this life, from her life here, as not as important. And if he's not going along with it, then he's working for the adversary, her spouse, or anything. Okay, so this is where it's dangerous, and this is how she manipulates people. Okay, so like with this girl, this woman that he's speaking of, they were murdered together, right? They were sisters and they were murdered together. Well, that's a traumatic experience. So when she's doing this energy healing, it's going back, supposedly, into your past lives, because in this sphere, every life you carry over karma. So if you did something bad in this life, you have a really bad life here, and that's why you're being punished here. Atonement, right? So if you want to atone for your sins, say you murdered her in a past life, right? To atone for your sins, she would have to murder you here. Or if you were a thief, you would need to give. You know, all this stuff. She said that she's like Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was a peasant woman who had visions told and got everything donated to her. She dressed up as a man. She didn't become a saint until after her death. Apparently she was proven right after she died or something like that. I don't know. But, and then the Eric Smith was her husband, so she probably does the sexual, we were married before thing to the men and family ties with the women. And this is playing on the emotional role. You go through trauma together, it brings you closer together. She gives these people feelings that they've never had in order to clear out the emotions and break the generational curses or break the atonement. Okay. So I want to go further into what I'm saying right now. So I looked Julie up. Julie has no degree at all from BYU. There's no record of her ever attending BYU. There is no record of her ever being married. None whatsoever of her ever being married. There's no record of her children that she claims to have. I've seen one picture of her and supposedly her kids. There's no record of this grown man anywhere. Or any of her children, for that matter. That she even has any children. There's no hospital records of that. I believe, because Julie Rowe mentioned herself in an interview with Eric Smith. She said that I don't have pictures of my family. I keep my life very, very private. I don't bring my husband. I don't bring my kids. I don't have them in anything. I keep them very, very secret and my life very, very private. It's because she doesn't have any kids or husband, in my opinion. And that's why she wants to break all the marriages up. She's a destroyer of lives. And her greater tomorrow relief fund is for her to have a greater tomorrow. She gets these people, she plays on people's emotions, she hypnotizes them, she puts thoughts into their head. She is a very manipulative and evil woman. She has problems. She has multiple personalities, I believe. I believe she's her husband and her kids. Like, I've looked really hard. I paid money to look really hard. And there's nothing. I would tell you her real last name, but I'm not going to do that. But I know it. And for Lori, since in the past 15 years, Lori has lived at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Lori has lived at 17 different places. Julie has lived at 9. Lori also, let me find that really quick. Sorry, I've been going really hard up into this. So Lori worked at PPFS Marketing LLC, AZ Broadway Kids Inc., AZ Salon Day Spa, and Wildflower Salon. The Moroni reference is for the Jason Mao guy that supposedly married Chad and Lori. And then there's some speculation about her actual near-death experiences that she claims to have. Conveniently, Spring Creek Publishing was created in 2004, which is the same time that Julie Rowe claims that she had a near-death experience. And Tamara Daybell. And then there's Emma Daybell. I have it written down somewhere. Oh. So I did find something about Julie with someone, possibly. Or I think this might be the Julie. There is a Julie, but I can't confirm that it's her. But this person was married to a Marty, or supposedly married to a Marty. But some of her family members, one of them was named Natalie and Valerie. And that stood out to me. I couldn't find the death records for Lori Vallow's sister either. I don't know what that means, but funny enough, here's another fun fact for you guys. Joan of the Arc, King Charles, or Charles is something, he's the one that put Joan of Arc to death, and it was at the Creek of Lori. Lori was the name, so Charles and Lori there. Also, Joan of Arc's description of her gifts from the Lord are the same description that Lori gives. And there's so much more, y'all. I don't want y'all to think I'm crazy, but I'm just giving y'all some truth. Telling y'all some truth. This woman is very, very dangerous, in my opinion. In my opinion, she is the leader, and she is the cause. In my opinion, allegedly, everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. She is the one who caused all this to happen. That light-dark scale, all her. As you can see, this is from somebody way before this happened. This account of what he suspected could happen was way before it ever happened. And it sickens me. It really does. She is a disgrace to humans. You will know them by their fruits. Thanks, guys.